Welcome. I'm Jessica Tietjen, and this is the Evolving to Exceptional podcast, where we talk about reaching peak performance in our workplaces, homes, and communities so that we can live our best life possible, an exceptional life. Welcome back to this special episode on part 2 of Eliminating Extremism. And I wrote a sequel to the article I posted about a week or so ago called Navigating the Election Results and Finding Our Way to Fulfillment. Now, I want to state that I actually wrote this article or this message prior to the election results coming out. I don't know how that necessarily impacts or influences anyone's interpretation of it. But I wanted just to make sure it was clear, I wrote this before I knew the ultimate outcome of the election. So last week, after I published my article on extremism, I found myself further reflecting on the challenges that we're navigating in today's world, a world that's really filled with intensity, division, and frequent misunderstanding. And I'm going to insert here that I have probably seen this at its worst in the last couple of days since the election results. So I think it's certainly not getting better at this point. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's felt the weight of these emotions and the desire to express what matters most to us, yet fearing that it might be misinterpreted, met with hostility, or even outright attack. While most people reacted well, some misunderstood my meaning, and a few were even triggered. After engaging in discussion and reflecting further, I wanted to add a bit more about what I've discovered around the importance of moderation in a time when emotions and opinions can feel like a battleground. And I want to start by telling a little bit of a personal story. In a discussion about my article, I was reminded of my grandfather, Reverend Dr. John H. Tietjen's legacy and experience in the 1970s around the Lutheran Church. And I'm going to just give this history very briefly. My grandfather was the president of Concordia Seminary in St. Louis, and he found himself at the center of a religious divide. At the heart of the controversy was a disagreement over interpretations of the Bible and whether the Bible should be interpreted literally or whether it could be interpreted using historical critical methods that allowed for the potential that the Bible was not always literal in its stories and in its writing. My grandfather at the time chose to support faculty members and their use of the historical critical methods in interpreting the Bible, allowing for the possibility that in some cases or some parts of the Bible to make sure to interpret it in the context in which the history that was going on around it when it was written by human beings. Ultimately, this led to a decision to suspend him and exile him from the Lutheran Church of Missouri Synod. And the creation of a seminary in exile called Seminex, and ultimately, after a period of time, the creation of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, the ELCA, which was a combination of 3 other Lutheran bodies into one. And so while this sounds like a story of a subset of a particular religious group leaving that religious group, it was actually the unification of multiple Lutheran entities coming together into one under a set of unifying principles and practices. What's most relevant about this story was the contentious atmosphere he navigated while he chose to stand for his principles and beliefs in spite of the consequences to himself and his family. Underlying his beliefs was a commitment to a balanced theological perspective and seeking unity within the Lutheran Church and its traditions. Now, I was blessed to grow up with my grandfather as a very close mentor and advisor to me for many years. I was the oldest grandchild, so I got to spend a lot of my time with him, and I have very fond memories of family dinners debating political topics with him and my entire extended family. These discussions, while often high in emotion, never escalated to damaging relationships beyond repair. We were able to sit at a dinner table to talk about challenging topics, myself, even as a young teenage girl, engaging in these dialogues and discussions, sharing differing points of view and learning from one another's perspectives in order to gain a better understanding. Now, my grandfather, he always emphasized the importance of healthy debate, of learning from those with different perspectives and experiences, and relying on our own inner wisdom, faith, or relationship with God for guidance and direction rather than any one institution or leader. Now, I share this story because I fundamentally believe there is more to be gained by discussing our differences in healthy dialogue and debate than avoiding those with whom we disagree. And I will take that one step further upon reflection in the last few days. And that is that I actually truly believe that there is the most to be gained by discussing our shared commonality, our shared connection to what we value, find important, and prioritize to find the ways in which we can build bridges toward one another. Now, those who challenged my first article caused me to dive deeper into my own awareness, insights, and beliefs. They caused me to expand and further develop my perspective. For this, I am incredibly appreciative, even if we disagree on whether my first article was valid or merely unnecessary psychobabble. We must find a way forward that allows us to engage with one another in order to further our own understanding and perspectives. Now, a couple clarifying points. The true meaning of moderation. We need to ensure we don't confuse moderation with neutrality, indifference, apathy, or even inaction. Moderation is not the opposite of extremism. It is the art of finding balance and the common ground amidst diversity and difference. I'm going to say that again. We need to ensure we don't confuse moderation with neutrality, indifference, apathy, or inaction. Moderation is not the opposite of extremism. It is the art of finding balance and common ground amidst diversity and difference. True moderation is the desire to take action by coming towards rather than moving away from one another to find a path forward together. It involves working together to seek common ground so as not to displace, ignore, or isolate the opinions or perspectives of a particular people. Moderation is not agreement. Moderation does not mean we will always agree or even come to consensus, nor does it imply that we will feel or express strong emotions like anger, sadness, or frustration. Instead, moderation is about our approach involving restraint, self-control, and intentional, measured engagement. Moderation creates clarity and coherence rather than chaos and confusion. Empathy for emotions. Today, we must lead with empathy, compassion, and understanding for everyone impacted. Emotions are running high, and these emotional reactions can either contribute to chaos or inspire curious, compassionate communications. After I cast my vote and went back to my car to drive home, I was struck by a wave of unanticipated emotions. In the past, I might have attempted to suppress, deny, or ignore my emotions to carry on with my day. Instead, I allowed myself to feel and express them in order to move through them. Emotions are energy in motion. If we do not express them, the energy will become trapped in our bodies. This energy will ultimately need to be released and will explode out of us, usually when least anticipated and in towards those we love most. We must not bury these emotions nor allow them to overwhelm us into unhealthy actions or words. Instead, we must process them, preferably in a space where we can be witnessed and met with compassion. Now, I want to talk about navigating the election aftermath. For better or worse, this political season has come to an end. While we likely won't know the outcome right away, and in fact we do, we will all be faced with how to move forward. We each have free will over how we navigate the days ahead. We are free to find and choose the wisest path forward for all of us. I think what I fear most, and is likely shared by others, is which path most people will choose. Whether we choose a path of violence, viciousness, and a ruthless pursuit of one's own agenda and perspectives at all costs, or whether we navigate the coming months with creativity, compassion, and courage. Whether we will experience increasingly more extreme actions in response to the results, or whether there is a path forward that honors all human beings as valuable members of our community. A path that allows families once again to communicate with love and curiosity without the cloud of apprehension hanging over every interaction. A path that allows us to avoid feeling unsafe or fearful in our workplace or community. a path that allows us to disagree on some topics while also supporting and engaging respectfully with one another. Eliminating an enemy mindset. I don't mean eliminating the minds of our enemies. I mean eliminating the mindset that other human beings are our enemies. If we peel back the months of rhetoric, slogans, and propaganda, underneath it all, we are all real human beings. We are human beings living our lives in the best way we know how. We must recognize that everyone's thoughts, beliefs, feelings, and actions come from their unique experiences and environments. We've all made a choice in this election based upon our unique perspective. That choice alone does not need to forever isolate us from those who made a different choice. Most people are not unfeeling sociopaths or psychopaths, but caring humans. Most of us are just people who have been persuaded by powerful messages for better or worse. Most of us just want to live fulfilling and meaningful lives. We want to love our families, to enjoy life's moments, to contribute to the world with our talents, to faithfully worship our God or gods, and to experience all we can while on this earth. Don't we all want to live a fulfilling life? Of course we do. So why don't we? What prevents us? Just look at the word for a clue about achieving the result. Fulfilling contains full and fill, a feeling that our lives are full and filled in a positive way. Fulfilling means satisfying or rewarding, providing happiness or satisfaction. Fulfillment is the act of satisfying or completing something, a sense of deep satisfaction or contentment. To achieve fulfillment, we must neither feel a deficit nor become overwhelmed. Fulfillment is finding our way back to balance, completeness, and coherence, which brings us full circle back to moderation. For by definition, if we stay polarized to extremes, we will live our lives always in a deficit, never fully fulfilled, which is exactly what those in power or those who desire to spread extremist messages want. They need you to be disgruntled and discontent so they can persuade you of their point of view, so they can coerce you into complying and following their lead. If we can access, align, and apply our own intelligence in pursuit of our personal purpose and passion, we will undoubtedly discover our own completeness and coherence. If we purposefully and respectfully engage with one another, if we focus on pursuing our purpose and passions rather than focusing on division and disagreement, if we use our wisdom to guide our discussions and relationships, if we choose to come together rather than be divided apart, if we choose to offer compassion and empathy instead of judgment, blame, and shame, if we actively reject attempts to divide us, we will find our way forward together. I ask that you invest some time in reflection, that you take some moments of your life to reflect not on all of the feelings that you're feeling, but on how we can contribute to a world that honors our shared humanity rather than succumbing to a path that further divides us. As we look to the days ahead, I encourage everyone to take this time to reflect on what you truly feel, really know, and deeply need. Acknowledge your inner intelligence and wisdom and allow it to guide you in your thoughts, feelings, and actions. Intentionally engage your intelligences, head, heart, and gut, and bring them to their highest expressions: creativity, compassion, and courage. Let these guide you in your interactions and communications. We each have the unique ability to choose empathy or animosity, to hold space for others even when we disagree. What will you choose? What will you do in the days ahead? How will you show up as the most intelligent human being you possibly can be? How will you be the most creative, compassionate, and courageous human every day? I want to thank you for taking the time to both listen and thoughtfully consider this message. I share what I write only when I'm inspired to write it and to share it. And whether you agree or disagree, either way, I hope my messages cause you to think more critically, feel more fully, and act more boldly. My purpose here in this podcast, in my business, in this world, is to share insights and wisdom that causes you to truly think about the world in different and more interesting ways. that challenges you to maybe step beyond the patterns that have kept you operating, thinking, feeling, and behaving in one particular way. And to maybe consider that there's a better way, that there's a wiser way, that there's a way to evolve yourself beyond the you that you are today into an even better version of yourself. And in order to do that, in order to evolve forward, in order to make progress in your own growth, development, and intelligence, we must be willing to look at ourselves with deep self-awareness and self-reflection, to acknowledge where we have deficits, gaps, misunderstandings, and a lack of perspective of others' experiences, and to engage actively in practices that will push us to courageously consider the steps we can take to live a wiser, more intelligent life. Now, as I wrap this episode up and I wrap this message up this week, I have a lot of thoughts and a lot of opinions and a lot of feelings and a lot of gut reactions to not just the election results, but the actions and reactions of people everywhere. And I am working on a message to help maybe unpack and understand what's happening from a neuroscience, neuroperformance, human neurophysiological perspective. And I will try to do that in the most balanced way that I can. Because one of my values as a human being and as the person that I want to be in this world is to be a person that is open to all perspectives, that is willing to engage, that is willing to build relationships and bridges rather than tear them down. And it is my belief that we have more in common that we share than we do things that divide and cause us to disagree. Unfortunately, elections and politics cause us to focus more on the disagreements and the things that we think and feel differently about. But if we can instead look at where we can build from, where we can find commonality and create progress and change from that place, I believe that we will find better answers, wiser answers, and better results for everyone. So I hope, regardless of your personal beliefs, your personal perspectives, where you stand in today's world, that you will continue to come and to listen and to learn and to engage and to discover alternative thoughts, feelings, and actions so that you might continue evolving to be the best human that you can be in this world, so that you might continue to evolve and grow your neural pathways so that you can live your best life, an exceptional life. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll be back again next week with another episode.